Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video called Moving to Nordic Countries, Which Country is Best? So I think Nordic countries is like Sweden, Norway, Finland, Iceland, and Denmark. I always forget about Denmark. It's like, I don't know why I think it's like mainland Europe, but no, of course it isn't. It's actually Scandinavia as well. But yeah, I think people, it doesn't surprise me that people want to move there because, you know, it's like they have a reputation for being like pretty successful countries. People earn pretty well. I think the economy is probably the number one thing. Like, that's why people want to move there. It's because they have the reputation of being like very rich countries and people earn pretty well. So like, who wouldn't want to live there? I think that's why they're like, a lot of people is like, I want to move there. Yes. So I don't really know which is going to be the best. Hopefully we're going to find out. So let's check it out and comment, like, and subscribe.
As moving to Scandinavian countries is attractive thanks to the high quality of life, incredible nature and stability, I would like to use the time we have to analyze the countries of Greenland, Iceland, the Faroe Islands, Denmark, Norway, Sweden and Finland in terms of climate, language, cost of living, income, quality of life, human development and security. There is no definition which countries belong to Scandinavia, and I am aware that neither Greenland nor Iceland are considered part of it. Furthermore, Greenland and the Faroe Islands technically are part of Denmark, but nevertheless I think that including these territories may be interesting. The goal of this is to help you decide which Scandinavian country suits.
Without seeing the video, I have to say, like, all the countries sound pretty like, yeah, sure, I think I could, like, it sounds, I don't know, interesting. I would definitely want to visit. I don't know if I live there, but I would definitely go to visit. I would definitely go to visit, as in, like, maybe I could live there or see myself living there. But the Greenland one, I don't know who wants to live, like, who are they actually people that live there? Again, I haven't watched the video, but I think in my mind, Greenland is just like, there's like, you know, like military bases and stuff like that. But do people actually live there, as in like normal citizens live there? I think, you know, like, can you find like a lawyer there? That's my question. I'm so interested.
You best in case you are planning to move to one of these countries. Since this strongly depends on your personal preferences, I won't be able to tell which country you should choose, but I will for sure list some up and downsides of every Scandinavian country. First, we'll analyze the 7 metrics mentioned previously, followed by a conclusion at the end of the video. I will determine a score for each country and metric, where 1 is the best and 0 the worst. At the end, all points will be added up and it will be clear which country performed best. And if you are interested in moving to one of the Scandinavian countries, you might want to check out the playlist containing videos about the advantages and migration procedure of many countries worldwide. Let's start with the climate. As the climate may differ greatly depending on the country's region, I will analyze the temperatures of the capital city. Nuuk, with 18,000 inhabitants, is the capital and by far the largest city in Greenland. The year-round average of maximum temperatures per month is at 1.8 degrees Celsius in Nuuk, 7 degrees in Reykjavik, the capital of Iceland, 8.6 degrees in Tórshavn, the capital of the Faroe Islands, 11.1 degrees in Copenhagen, the capital of Denmark, 9.9 degrees in Oslo, the capital of Norway, 10.1 degrees in Stockholm, the capital of Sweden, and 9.1 degrees in Helsinki, the capital of Finland. The year-round average of the lowest temperatures per month is at negative 3.7 degrees in Nuuk, 1.9 degrees in Reykjavik, 4.4 degrees in Tórshavn, 5 degrees in Copenhagen, 2.3 degrees in Oslo, 3.6 degrees in Stockholm, and 3 degrees in Helsinki. One quickly notices that the climate in Nuuk is much colder, while the temperatures in Copenhagen almost appear warm. Another interesting metric is the average number of hours of sunshine a day. In Greenland, it is at 3.9 hours. In Iceland, 3.5. In Tórshavn, 2.3. In Copenhagen, 4.2. In Oslo, 4.6. In Stockholm, even 5.2. And in Finland, 5.1. If you enjoy higher temperatures and more hours of sunshine, then, in terms of climate, moving to Denmark or Sweden would be a good idea. The climate in Denmark is a little bit warmer, while Sweden has a little more hours of sunshine. It is important to mention that higher temperatures are considered to be better, while the number of sunshine hours count double. Then it turns out that Sweden is the most attractive country in terms of climate. That's why Sweden gets 1 more point, followed by Denmark with 0.923, Finland with 0.903, Norway with 0.812, the Faroe Islands with 0.668, Iceland with 0.442, and Greenland with 0. Language is another significant factor to successfully integrate yourself into the country's society. In Nuuk, people speak Greenlandic, which is an Inuit language. It is known for its very long words, and you can even form whole sentences consisting of just one word. Greenlandic is considered to be a language that is very difficult to learn for English speakers, because the fact that it is not possible to measure the difficulty of learning a language, I will rank the countries in an order of 1 to 7. Compared to other languages, I would rank Greenlandic in 6th place of the easiest languages for English speakers. Icelandic, on the other hand, is a Germanic language and therefore easier to learn than Greenlandic. However, since Iceland is geographically isolated, it has many unique words. There are also differences in pronunciation, which is why I rank Icelandic 5th. On the Faroe Islands, people speak Faroese and Danish. Faroese seems to have many similarities with Icelandic, but it is easier to learn if you already know Danish. I would rank Faroese 4th. Danish is a much broader language and also part of the Germanic languages. However, pronunciation is more difficult than in Swedish, so I would rank Danish 3rd and Swedish 2nd. Norwegian is ideal because it is written like Danish and pronounced like Swedish. With knowledge in Norwegian, it is easy to learn other Scandinavian languages. In addition, knowing Norwegian will allow you to get along well in other Scandinavian countries. Therefore, I would rank Norwegian first. Surprisingly, Finnish is a completely different language and part of the Finno-Ugric languages that Estonian is also part of. Finnish is known for being one of the world's most difficult language to learn, which is the reason why I rank it at 7th place. Giving 1 whole point for the first ranking language and subtracting 1/6 for every following rank, Norway gets 1 point, Sweden 0.833, Denmark 0.666, the Faroe Islands 0.5, Iceland 0.333, Greenland 0.166 and Finland 0. Next comes cost of living. I'll compare the cost of living in Berlin, Germany to every capital. For instance, if you make a living of 2,000 euros a month in Berlin, you'll need 2,850 euros for the same quality of life in Nuuk. So the cost of living in Nuuk is 1.425 times the amount you need in Berlin. This number is a good indication of how much you will need to spend when moving to a Scandinavian country. Simply multiply your current cost of living, assuming you live in Berlin, by the factor of the Scandinavian city, and you will be able to estimate how expensive your life in Scandinavia will be. The factor for Reykjavik is at 1.3, the one for Copenhagen at 1.373, Oslo at 1.3, Stockholm at 1.167, and Helsinki at 1.106. Unfortunately, I could not determine the cost of living in the Faroe Islands due to lack of data, but I read that life on the Faroe Islands is rather expensive because goods have to be imported. Since I assume that they are still lower than in Greenland, I would rank the Faroe Islands between 5th and 7th position. As Finland seems to have the lowest cost of living, it gets 1 point, followed by Sweden that gets 0.81, Norway and Iceland 0.393, Denmark 0.164, the Faroe Islands 0.083 and Greenland 0. Let's take a glimpse at how the countries are performing. Looking at the climate, language and cost of living in the capital, Sweden currently leads, followed by Norway, Finland, Denmark, the Faroe Islands, Iceland and Greenland. Let's see how these values change when considering income, quality of life, human development and security. The average annual income in 2019 was 45,547 euros or $54,200 in Greenland, 57,579 euros in Iceland, 43,128 euros in the Faroe Islands, 48,430 euros in Denmark, 45,790 euros in Norway, 39,570 euros in Sweden, and 38,730 euros in Finland. Isn't it surprising that people in Finland and Sweden seem to earn less than in Greenland or the Faroe Islands? Iceland by far comes in first place and therefore receives a full point. By the way, Iceland is the country where people earn the second most worldwide. Only in Luxembourg people earn more. Switzerland is following Iceland. Second comes Denmark with a score of 0.513, Norway with 0.373, Greenland with 0.354, the Faroe Islands 0.233, Sweden 0.044 and Finland 0, as people earn the least in Finland. The idea behind moving to another country mostly lies in improving the quality of life. So let's take a look at the Quality of Life Index and compare the Scandinavian countries in terms of this metric. According to the Numbeo Quality of Life Index, Denmark with a value of 193 not only ranks first among the Scandinavian countries, but also among the entire world. The next Scandinavian country in this index is Finland with a value of 190, followed by Iceland with 182, Sweden with 176 and Norway with 175. Again, I could not find data for Greenland and the Faroe Islands because of the fact that Greenland and the Faroe Islands under international law are part of Denmark. I have no choice but to give Greenland and the Faroe Islands a score of 0.5, even though they belong to Denmark and quality of life therefore probably is somewhat higher. It is very important to mention that there are countless quality of life comparisons out there. Depending on the index, sometimes Denmark, sometimes Switzerland or Australia is at
I would love love to know like the actual, he's saying like there's like different points of like measure, but I would love to know what actually are like the basic elements of this and how do you actually measure quality of life, because there's like so many things that you can include. So it's crazy that they have like different indexes.
First place. Also, the quality of life strongly depends on your personal preferences.
Exactly.
Denmark gets 1 point, followed by Finland with 0.833, Greenland and the Faroe Islands 0.5, Iceland 0.389, Sweden 0.056, and Norway 0 points. The Human Development Index also is an interesting metric to consider. Norway is leading worldwide with a score of 0.957 out of 1. The next Scandinavian country is Iceland with 0.938, Sweden with 0.937, Denmark with 0.93, and Finland with 0.925. Again, I didn't find any data regarding Greenland or the Faroe Islands.
There's
Norway
no data
scores
on
1,
those.
0.5
Never.
Greenland and the Faroe Islands, 0.406 for Iceland, 0.375 for Sweden, 0.156 for Denmark, and 0 for Finland. Especially if you plan to move with your family, security is another important metric to consider. I used the Numbeo Crime Index, where a lower value is better. As of the Numbeo Criminality Index, Iceland is the first Scandinavian country in that list, with 22 points, followed by Finland with...
I'm gonna say, so it's a joke, but I'm gonna be a little mean. It's like, it's the lowest because there's like nobody lives there, because they have like a lower population density. So it's like, there's no one to like rob you. There's no crime because basically no one lives there. It's like a very small population. Maybe that's, I don't know. It's a joke, but maybe not. I don't know.
23, Denmark 25, Norway 37, and Sweden 44. During the last years, criminality increased in Sweden, and apparently this trend is also observable in Norway. Again, there is no data on Greenland and the Faroe Islands. Iceland gets a whole point, followed by Finland with 0.955, Denmark 0.863, Greenland and the Faroe Islands 0.5, Norway 0.318, and Sweden 0. One can already see that Denmark, all in all, occupies the first place in this comparison, and therefore seems to be the most attractive Scandinavian country. With a total score of 4.285, it leads considerably over Iceland. Iceland, the small isolated country in the Arctic Ocean, comes in second in this comparison, followed by Norway, Finland, Sweden, the Faroe Islands, and Greenland. Let us briefly draw a conclusion about every country. In Greenland, the climate is cold with few hours of sunshine. The language is difficult to learn, the cost of living is high, and incomes are comparatively low. The Faroe Islands can still score some points in climate, however incomes are low as well. Sweden scores with a great climate, many hours of sunshine, the language as an advantage, and comparatively low cost of living. But there are some drawbacks in income, quality of life, and security. In this comparison, Finland behaves very interestingly. It scores surprisingly well thanks to a low cost of living, good climate, high quality of life, and high level of security. While in human development, income, and language, it did not score any points at all. Norway scores in language, human development, and climate, but needs to take some drawbacks in quality of life, high cost of living, and also security. Iceland ranks second. The biggest reason for this are high wages and the high level of security. Iceland never ranks last, which is why it collects points in every metric. Denmark ranks first. It has the highest quality of life and also scores points in climate, security, and language. Only the high cost of living and the comparatively low value of human development are drawbacks. So you can see that all these countries have a different profile, and you would need to do your own conclusion in regards to which country fits you best. All sources are linked in the video description. Thanks for watching.
This was actually pretty interesting. I think it's funny that it's like Iceland was the one that is like the sort of like, it's never like the runt of the litter, but it's also never outright like, it's never like the most successful, but it's not the worst either. So I would think, well, maybe that's what if you're looking for like the medium and sort of like the average one, I think I would definitely go for Iceland, because it's like, well, it's the one that's like, again, it's never gonna rank last, it's not gonna rank first, but at least it's not ranking last, so it's probably the best. I think I would have loved to see, like, it was good, obviously, like, I'm glad that he mentioned, like, obviously at the end of the day, things are, like, very personal, and they're gonna, when you're moving, like, you're deciding to move abroad or moving to a different country, like, I think there's quantify, like, you can quantify a lot of things, like, the how hard the language is gonna be, or the actual, like, the weather. Although, like, it is interesting, because, like, again, it's like learning a language, like, maybe what's harder for me, it's gonna be easier for some other people, because it depends on what you already know, and also like how your brain is wired. So it is hard to actually say, oh, this is a hard language, because it's going to depend on a lot of things. Also the weather, like you can say, oh, hours of sunshine, oh, what up, some people at the end of it's actually seen as bad, obviously, like, oh, they get like a lot of like harsh winters, they don't really see the sunlight. And on one hand, yes, of course, humans need sunlight to actually not be depressed, but on the other, I think some people might prefer, like colder weathers and not just having sunshine every single day. So maybe, again, so for some people it's a drawback, but maybe for others it's like, no, actually I like that it's not sunny out like every single day. So, and also the temperature, some people are like, I prefer a colder weather. So it is, I think a lot of things are just very personal, and they're gonna depend on what you actually prefer and what you actually like. So it is hard to actually put a number on things, because I think probably the easiest one, because obviously, again, like it was all very like statistical and very like mathematically, and yes, of course I can see the data, I agree, because again, it's like I can't argue with those facts. But I think if you're actually doing this for like personal things of like, actually I'm seeing if I'm going to move to one of these countries, I think what I would do personally is that I would like rank all those things that he just mentioned, all sort of like the elements of like quality of life and weather and language, and like, again, all the other things. And I would sort of like, I wouldn't actually assign the value of like, I'm gonna look online. No, I think I would actually I would assign the values that I believe in. Like, oh, I like colder weather, so for me, like the colder weather is something positive, so I'm going to assign like which one has the coldest one, so I'm going to put that one. That's what I would do personally. I would sort of like adapt it to my own personal situation, and then I would go around from there. And the other thing is obviously not, because again, this is very like looking at the hard facts, so it's not about, I don't know, like it's a different type of video. But I think I would have loved to see actually like clips of the actual countries, because even though I think the most known ones, like I think even Denmark or Sweden, I think probably those are the ones that you kind of like know the most. But even something like Iceland or Finland, or even I think maybe up to a certain point Norway, but like Greenland and the Faroe Islands, I don't really know how they look like. So I mean, I know that it's a country, but I'd never actually like, I don't know, I want a clip. I want to see like how the actual city looks like, because I know Greenland, but I think again in my mind it's like a whole chunk of like ice and it's glaciers. But I know obviously that's completely wrong, because there's a city. But is it like Alaska? Is it similar? I don't know. I would have loved to actually see that. And the Faroe Islands, I don't think I've ever heard of them before. So I'm so curious now. I'm like, I want to look it up, because I want to see like how the actual city and how the actual islands are, because I can think, are they similar to something like Ireland? I don't know, like, because it's like it's an island, and I'm imagining like mountains, green mountains, but probably it's the opposite. Maybe it's glaciers as well. I don't know. Like, I want to see clips of the actual countries, because I think, again, I'm going for like the emotional part of like, can I actually see myself living in this country? Like, I want to see a clip, but not necessarily the actual like car statistics. But actually, beforehand, like, I think a good idea if you're actually seriously planning on moving somewhere. Actually, I would say please go at least one time beforehand. And because again, what you see online, and you can actually see, again, you can see the hard statistics and the actual like mathematical facts. But one thing is for you to actually know them and actually understand them, and in your brain, like you're aware of those things. And it's a complete opposite thing to actually like go and visit them and actually like see, I'm actually here, myself is here, my person is here, and actually is walking the streets, and it's actually like taking a look around how things are. I think that's completely different. And there are some things that you just don't really get to see, like whether you talk to people, whether you watch videos, those are incredible. Like, yes, it's very informative, but at the end of the day, like, you're not actually going to see how a country is actually like until you actually go and visit them. And even if it's just like 1 week or 2 weeks, like, it could give you an impression, but actually living in those places and in a certain country, I think for a certain like period of time, 3 months, 6 months, I think those are like it's enough time, I think, for you to actually gather around like, oh, this is how the life is like in this country. I think it would be like the ideal situation. So if you're planning on moving somewhere, yes, of course, do your research. But if you're actually thinking about it seriously, my advice would be just go visit. If it's possible, stay there for as long as you can, a month, 2 months, so you can actually get a sense of how life actually is, because there are a lot of things that you're not going to see, like whether, again, people can tell you, and you know, you can watch videos and you can talk to people, but again, there's a certain like quality, a je ne sais quoi quality to, like, I don't know, to like actually living somewhere that you don't get to see until you're actually there and you actually visit and you actually see how life is like, because again, not everything can be measured in, you know, in numbers. So I think that would be my number one thing. Please visit at least one time. But that was it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.